So tonight's webinar, I'm going to teach you holographic breathing. And in the first part where I teach you holographic breathing, we're also going to work with the cranial sea. And the cranial sea is all of the fluid inside your brain, around your brain, down through the spinal cord and around through the spinal cord and out through the nerves. And there's a lot of it. Let me just show you a picture. It's nearly all sea in the brain, in the spinal cord. There's a lot of sea there. This is a ventricle, there's loads of sea. This is the cells surrounded by a lot of sea. So it is an aqueous solution. So we're going to be working with that. And we'll just go into that a little bit in the first part, in the first meditation, because most of that will be learning holographic breathing, because there'll be quite a few people here who haven't done holographic breathing, so we need to teach them holographic breathing. With holographic breathing, there's a motion of the breath, but also it gives us the ability to travel inwardly through our energies and through our anatomies, and we're going to use that to drop into the cranial sea and how it travels down through the spine, how it travels out through the nerves, and then we're going to return it to the heart. After it's gone out through the nerves, it travels out of the nerves and into what is called the interstitial fluid, which is between all of the cells in the body, and from there you can either go back to the heart through the venous blood or the lymph, and we're going to go through the lymph back to the heart, and then the journey starts again. The blood comes to the brain, comes to the spinal cord, goes through what is normally called the blood-brain barrier, but because that gives an image that nothing can go through it, we're going to call it the wellhead. The wellhead is what creates all of the cranial fluid. It's the cells around the capillaries. And then we'll go into the cranial sea again. So in the second part, I will show you all of the anatomy of that, so you can see the pictures. I'll also describe how it works, how it filters out that fluid. We will also be working with the astrocyte cells, which are major in that and have their own intelligence. This is how one of the major ways I healed myself of Lyme's disease. First, I was dying of Lyme's disease, then the holographic breathing came through, and I started being able to access my brain, access the cranial fluid, allow the toxins to leave, allow it to flow out through the nerves, and I started getting better. And then I started just looking how everything was working there and using it to replenish the brain cells, to get everything working, to help heal that. And so now I'm teaching that to you, so you can get better from stuff. And obviously the brain affects everything. Having a healthy brain makes a big difference to any diseases or anything that is going on. But we are going to start with learning holographic breathing. And for those that are new to this, holographic breathing, and you can start with this straight away. If you're new to this, just start with this straight away. The lips are closed and relaxed, just having a light seal with your lips, and the tongue is on the roof of the mouth. Now, it's not the tip of the tongue like in Tai Chi, it's the flat of the tongue. It's the upper surface of the tongue is against the roof of the mouth. The tip of the tongue is close to or touching the front teeth, and then as much as the tongue on the roof of the mouth as feels comfortable. So maybe there'd be 1/2 inch of your tongue on the roof of the mouth, maybe there'd be a whole inch, maybe the whole tongue is on the roof of the mouth. After a while with holographic breathing, the tongue gets softer and larger a bit in a way, and it just starts easily splaying over the whole roof of the mouth. But to start off with, it's just the front part, or as much as feels comfortable. You don't want to, nothing should be uncomfortable in holographic breathing. Now, along with that, I don't want you to start that yet, because you have to go through kind of a process to get it started. It's a bit like an initiation. But along with that, there's a gentle motion of the jaw that integrates with the breath. And on the in-breath, the jaw is gently opening, and on the out-breath, the jaw is gently closing. The lips stay closed and the tongue stays on the roof of the mouth all of the time with that. And I start off by teaching it as some exercises, but there's just a certain point where it integrates together with the breath, and it's like a memory. It's as if you've always known it your whole life, and the breath deepens, normally slows down, and you just feel kind of waves of energy or waves of the breath moving through the whole body, and it's as if the whole face starts to breathe, and the whole cranium starts to breathe, and the whole brain starts to breathe. Everything, one breath, the whole body, the whole brain, everything starts to breathe. Somehow, as our normal breath unites with this movement of the jaw, it moves through the head and brain and through the whole body. Now, I'm going to demonstrate it. You probably won't see the movement of the jaw because it's very subtle. It's just 2 or 3 or 4 millimeters or 1/4 of an inch. It's not a big motion, but I'll demonstrate it and you can get a visual that the lips actually do stay closed, and you may see it as well because I take deeper breaths and exaggerate it a bit, but you probably won't even see it. So I'll just demonstrate it for a few breaths. Okay, and it very quickly takes you into a deeply meditative place, deeply relaxed place. Now, for all of the new people, I just want you to try something, just because what sometimes happens is I start teaching it and then people start trying to move the jaw with the breath and they think, well, that's impossible. You've got to open and close your lips for the jaw to open and close. So I just want everybody to have your lips closed and just start gently moving the jaw up and down, a bit like chewing, just to get the experience that you can move the jaw with the lips closed. So just get that experience of gently moving your jaw with the breath, or not with the breath, just up and down any way you want, and that you don't have to open the lips. Okay, we're going to go through some exercises to start that. Then we're going to take it through the whole body and get it all working, getting this wave-like motion going. Then going to drop back into the cranial sea in the brain, which is everything, inside the brain, around the brain, then down through the spine, then out through the nerves, just to get an experience of that. See, and it's water, it's 99% water, so it makes this channel. It's salt water, it is a sea, it is salt water, and that can also receive the higher energies that can travel down through you, can travel up from the earth and your lower energies up through the nerves, and also ascend. So we'll be going into that. All right, okay. All right, so all of those exercises will be in the meditation, so you'll just be a guided meditation to learn holographic breathing. So everything I've said we will be going through in slow motion. All right, closing your eyes. And if you know holographic breathing, dropping into the holographic breathing. If you don't know holographic breathing, just breathing in a relaxed way. Just easy, relaxed breathing. And we're going to bring in some resources, sending a smile to the earth, and allow the earth to say hello back. Sending some energy to the earth, and allow the earth to say hello back. And notice what that feels like through your body and through your energies. Relax your necks. I just feel a lot going on in people's necks. Relax your necks. Gently breathing and allowing yourself to communicate with the earth. Then send a smile, send some energy to the higher self and the beneficial energies. The beneficial energies are any beneficial channels you work with, spiritual channels, higher beings. So sending a smile to the higher self, some energy to the higher self, and a smile and some energy to the beneficial energies, and allow the higher self and the beneficial energies to say hello back. Allowing yourself to receive from the higher self and the beneficial energies, and allow that to come down through you. Allow yourself to receive that energy. Interestingly, in the description I said that we were going to be doing a bit more channeling. I can feel that energy already in the group, that there is strong kind of spiritual communication. So, you know, being open to that and allow that to whatever level it is or however you're comfortable, but saying hello to the higher self and the beneficial energies. And letting the earth, the higher self and the beneficial energies be with you through the whole webinar as your guide, as your resource, as your beneficial energies or healing energies. Okay, so now we're going to learn the holographic breathing. So the lips are relaxed and closed, the tongue is relaxed on the roof of the mouth, the tip of the tongue is close to or touching the front teeth, and the upper surface of the tongue on the roof of the mouth, as much as feels comfortable, maybe half an inch, maybe a whole inch, and just become used to the tongue being there and the lips being closed and the breath being through the nose. And then just making some little up-down motions of the jaw, not in line with the breath yet, but just little up-down motions, just to notice. You can move the jaw up and down and the lips can stay closed. Notice that you can do that. And now slow that down, and as the jaw is relaxing open, letting the breath come in through the nose. And as the jaw is rising, allow the breath to come out through the nose. The jaw gently opens, the breath comes in through the nose. The jaw gently closes, the breath comes out through the nose. Notice you can do that with the lips closed and the tongue on the roof of the mouth. If it feels in any way arduous, just slow the breath down, make the movement softer and smaller. Doesn't have to be a large movement at all, but it does have to move. It does actually have to physically move. Jaw opens slowly, the breath comes in through the nose, the jaw closes, the breath leaves through the nose. Relax the back of your neck, relax the back of your head. Already, even though we're not properly into it, already energies will start moving through you. As the jaw closes and the teeth come together, there's no pressure. They just float together on the in-breath. They float apart. They float apart on the in-breath. And they float together on the out-breath. So there's no pressure. They just very lightly touch. Or you can have it so they don't touch at all. The jaw gently opens. The breath comes in through the nose. The jaw gently closes. The breath comes out through the nose. And we're now going to change the gestalt on that. We're going to change the emphasis. Rather than having the emphasis in the jaw, bring the emphasis to the nose and the breath. As the breath comes in through the nose, the jaw relaxes open. As the breath is leaving through the nose, the jaw relaxes closed. Notice the energy completely changes. Everything gets much softer. Everything gets much easier. Breathing in through the nose, the jaw relaxes open. Breathing out through the nose, the jaw relaxes closed. The lips stay closed all of the time. The tongue stays relaxed on the roof of the mouth all the time. If the tongue comes off occasionally, that's fine. Just carry on, then put it back and start again. Breathing in, the jaw relaxes open. Breathing out, relaxes closed, and after being with it for a bit, notice how it just feels like remembering this. It's like you've done it somewhere before and it is just being reignited. It's like we breathe like this in the womb or as very young children, and it's being reinstated. Breathing in, the jaw relaxes open. Breathing out, it relaxes closed. And after a while, once you have it, you can just move away from the jaw because it's just automatically working with the breath. Becoming aware of your chest. On the in-breath, the chest is opening and the jaw is opening with it. On the out-breath, the chest is closing and the jaw is closing with it. Just becomes part of the breath. You can think of the jaw like a rib. It's just opening with the ribs, just closing. So as the chest opens, the jaw, mouth are opening, the lips stay closed, ribs and the chest are closing, the jaw is closing. Relax the back of your neck, relax the back of your head. Being aware of your abdomen. As the abdomen opens, the jaw opens. As the abdomen closes, the jaw closes, and you start taking a lovely, slow, deep breath. Notice how easy it is to breathe with your abdomen when your jaw is joining in with the breath. The abdomen is opening, the jaw opens. The abdomen is closing, the jaw is closing. Notice it starts to feel like your brain and your brain cells have started to breathe. The jaw starts to breathe. This subtle motion of the breath goes through the whole face and cranium. It's as if every little cell in the brain's opening on the in-breath and closing on the out-breath. And through your whole body, all the cells are opening on the in-breath, all the cells are closing on the out-breath, and it's effortless. There's no effort, it's just soft, easy, gentle breath. And becoming aware of the pelvis. Pelvis opening up to the sides on the in-breath. The pelvis closing on the out-breath. You get this gentle motion through the pelvis and the pelvic floor with every breath. And through your arms and legs, breathing in, they're opening, breathing out, they're closing. And the hands and feet, feel this subtle motion within the hands and feet, opening on the in-breath, closing on the out-breath. And the whole body is breathing, and the jaw is just breathing along with it. It's as if this is how it's always meant to be. Something has been taken away, a block has been taken away, and you get a full breath. As the jaw starts opening on the in-breath and closing on the out-breath, you get a full breath through your whole body. Everything breathes. being aware of the face and the cranium. And also notice a sideways motion of the breath. As well as the jaw is dropping on the in-breath, it's as if the jaw, the face, the cranium are opening up sideways as you breathe in. Closing medially back towards the middle as you breathe out. Very subtly opening up sideways on the in-breath, closing medially on the out-breath. You feel that going through your neck, through your chest, through your arms and legs. Everything opening to the sides as you breathe in. Everything closing medially as you breathe out. Coming to the sides of the cranium as the cranium is opening, the in-breath closing on the out-breath. Underneath the cranium you can feel the sea. First of all, you can feel a layer of sea around the whole brain, maybe big ventricles within the brain, opening on the in-breath, closing on the out-breath. Notice how fluid that feels. And then through the whole brain, feel the cells are all like seaweed in this salt water fluid. There's this very fluid hydraulic motion of the cranium with this fluid inside it and down through the whole spine and spinal cord. You can feel this cranial sea being gently ventilated by the breath. You can feel as this sea is ventilating, it's bringing oxygen, nutriments, life to all of the brain cells. So just floating in it like sea, it's ventilating. The meninges of the brain are breathing. It just starts vitalizing the brain. It gets it breathing, not forcefully, there's no force, it's an impetus, it's already there, you're just allowing it. All opening as you breathe in, all closing. It starts kind of moving this sea around, it starts ventilating it. And it's around the brain, it's through the brain, it's around the spinal cord, it's in the spinal cord. And this starts flowing off through the nerves. From the brain stem it flows out through the face, around the cranium. This cranial sea flows off down the nerves. And also from the brain stem it flows off down through the vagus nerve, down through your whole lungs, heart and digestion, and genitalia and organs. Healing sea flows off down through the nerves and out from the spine, all the nerves flowing out through the neck and arms, through the chest and lungs, through the abdomen, through the pelvis, and down through all of the nerves in the legs. Feel this sea of salt water. Cranial fluid is salt water with oxygen, glucose and some other nutriments, but it's 99% water. Letting that flow off through your whole body. And as it flows off through the nerves, this off-flow, it's a bit like the lymph. You're allowing the toxins to leave from your brain. It's offloading the brain. It's offloading the brain, and also light is shining through it. The third eye is shining through it. The crown chakra is shining through it. And those energies are flowing off with the water through your whole body. The nerves go to every cell. They heal every part of you. Gently breathing with the holographic breathing. Letting that breathe. Definitely feel it through your legs, and let your neck relax. Let everything breathe. Let everything relax. The jaw is still just gently moving with the breath. We're going to come back in about a minute. And when you feel ready, gently allowing yourself to come back. So I got a feeling there's quite a few cranial practitioners in here, so I'm going to show the anatomy in the way that people who've done professional trainings would be interested in seeing it, but it is for everybody, and I'm going to do it in a way that everybody can understand it and it's easy to be with. So the cranial sea is produced in 3 places. You've got, I think, 400 miles, something like that, of capillaries. The blood comes from the heart, the blood vessels get smaller and smaller, and as they go through the brain and through the spine, they move into tiny little capillaries wide enough for one blood cell to go around them. And then around those capillaries there's cells called endothelial cells. And in the body, when the heart is pumping out or the blood is flowing out through the body, some people don't think it is a pump because it's impossible. There's, God knows, it has to, your capillaries and blood vessels are long enough to go 3 times round the earth, so it's not actually really possible for the blood, for the heart to pump through there. Many people, it's actually the capillaries move it along with capillary action. Something else is happening there. But anyway, around the capillaries in the body you've got endothelial cells, and between the endothelial cells there's joints, but these joints are open, means all the fluid or most of the fluid can come out. The oxygen can come out, proteins can come out, lipids can come out, everything that the cells need can come out. Then the cells eat that and do whatever they're going to do, and then they give off carbon dioxide and different toxins, and then that gets taken back to the heart by the venous blood and the lymph. And this, let me show you that, because there's an interesting thing. 1 minute. As the blood leaving the heart, that's that red blood, the arterial blood, that comes out through the body. It comes out of the blood around, it's called interstitial fluid when it comes out of the blood, and it's around all of the cells through the whole body. That comes out. That is moving quite fast when it leaves the heart and moving around. Going back to the heart, the venous blood is moving much more slowly, so it can't take all of that fluid. The remaining fluid, this clear thing in the middle, that is the volume of lymph. So there's this much blood leaving the heart, going quickly. Coming back, there's this much venous blood that's going much slower than that, but still going along. And then you've got the lymph, this sea of lymph, which is traveling very slowly. So the same is true of the brain and central nervous system. We'll first look at the endothelial cells around the capillaries. It gets to the brain, it's going through the capillaries, and then it's got these 400 miles of capillaries, and it's got these endothelial cells around it. But in the brain, they've got tight junctions, and they're so tight that they will only let water through, pure water. They won't let proteins through, they won't let fats through, they won't let viruses through, they won't let bugs through. They can't get through. So the capillaries through the joints between the endothelial cells, just pure water. So you're getting this very refined sea coming out of the capillaries. And then the endothelial cells, they're very clever. They just choose what the brain wants, and it works on a different system in the body. It just works with oxygen and glucose. Doesn't have all of these other things. All the brain cells just work with oxygen and glucose. So it lets salt, oxygen and glucose and maybe neurotransmitters and some other little things through, but it's majorly salt, glucose and oxygen. The cells allow that to come through. And that is the cranial sea. And let me just show you a picture of that on the endothelial cells. So through all of the whole brain, all the capillaries, this is, see this around it, this is an endothelial cell, this is the blood in the middle, that is a neuron, and where it joins at the bottom, that is a tight connection. Only pure water can come out through that, and then water will travel through everything via osmosis, so water travels out through the whole cell, and then it allows salt, glucose and oxygen out, so you get this area of cranial sea. That is how the majority of the cranial sea is produced. And tight junctions are not a common thing. They're, you know, they are around in the body, but it's this very specific thing for filtering. And then the other place, oh, there's a long one of it. I'll do it sideways. Here it is long ways. You can see an endothelial cell there, an endothelial cell there, another one here, and these, where they're joining, these are tight junctions. Only pure water, nothing else will come through those junctions, and then water, salt and oxygen and glucose just come out through the sides of the cell, and everything else is kept inside. The other place that creates the cranial sea is around the thalamus, and they're called the choroid plexus, and they're wrapped around the thalamus, they're inside the thalamus, and they're inside the brainstem. So it's creating this extra nutriments for that whole central control part of the brain, really. And that is different. These are ependymal cells, and these fit together like in blankets, like these. These are cuboidal ependymal cells, and between every ependymal cell are tight junctions. So only pure water will come through the junctions. And then the ependymal cells do exactly the same thing. They just let through oxygen, glucose, and salt. And so you get the same thing being produced, but from different cells and in a different area. There they are. Different. See, it's different. You see the blood, they create packages. You get blood coming into the package, blood leaving, and then through the ependymal cells it creates the cranial sea. So that's two places that create this cranial sea. Now I'm not going to go into huge detail. Now the third place that produces cranial sea, but it's not going out into the cranial sea, it's for its internal environment, and this is how the cranial sea flows off down through the nerves. So around this, you have around all of, or not all of them, the white matter of the brain. This is myelinated. It's got myelin sheath around it, or myelinating glial cells. And this is a cross section of a myelinating glial cell. And it just wraps itself. This is the axon. It comes from the neuron, and the electricity is travelling down that, and wrapped around it. This cell wraps around it loads of times, and you've got the neuron, and the space is cranial sea. And what there's a tight junctions here, so only pure water can come in through there, and then the cell around allows in oxygen, salt, and glucose. So you end up with this cranial sea for its internal use and for the use of the axon. And when that travels off down through the nerves, then that's not got cranial sea around it. It's got normal interstitial fluid, so it can keep the consistency of the cranial fluid going out through the nerves. It can create its own cranial sea for inside itself. So those are the three places. So I am teaching the anatomy, and I can feel that is a little bit hard and it's pressing, but it's quite good to understand how you're working inside, so you can visualize that. And then the extra, what we're going to be working with is the astrocyte cells, and they are the second layer around the capillaries. You've got the endothelial cells, which will just create this rarefied fluid of cranial sea, or rarefied compared to the interstitial fluid of the body, which is the same thing between cells. This is the picture that I made that other picture from, wherever, I don't know where it is. Well, there it is. That picture, there we go. I know, hasn't got as much in it. Came from this picture. Which way up is it? So, see, you've got all of those Let me turn it the other way up so the neurons are at the bottom. No, we turn it this way up so the okay. So now, can you see all of these cells with lots of tentacles coming off them here and joining to everything around? They're a bit like the connective tissue of the brain, and this is a capillary, and see how they've completely coated the capillary. They've stuck their feet all around the capillary and all around over the endothelial cells. Now, those feet from the astrocyte cells, they don't have tight junctions, so the water and the oxygen and glucose can just flow around them and out. But a lot of that oxygen and glucose and water will just flow into those feet and into those whole astrocyte cells, and they become a store for that, and they will feed that nutrition directly to the neurons and into the synapses. And what they also do is they produce different compounds which enable the endothelial cells to have tight junctions. So if the astrocyte cells get injured or something goes wrong, then that also starts breaking up these tight connections, and then you get leaks. You start just getting all the other stuff from the blood starting to come out and pollute the cranial sea, and then nothing works properly anymore. And what we're doing in this webinar is breathing with all of those cells to get the breathing motion through and the energies so that they can become more healthy and that those seals can stay strong around the capillaries, so only this really rarefied fluid comes out with just oxygen and glucose. You don't want proteins flowing out or flats flowing out or viruses flowing out, because everything starts breaking down at that point. So the astrocyte cells, they help govern that. They also govern the blood flow. They can put out different compounds that will tighten the capillaries or dilate the capillaries. And in the new science of the brain, the same way as you have these electrical charges flowing down through the neurons and the axons between the neurons, there's this same, it's not electricity, they only just really realized what it is, but there's this same flow of energy flowing through the astrocyte cells. They are communicating. They didn't know how they were doing it before, but now they've found it's a chemical reaction. But the neurons are like lightning, they're straight. And the astrocyte cells, they're different. They just open like sheet lightning. They just spread in all directions. The neurons are like landlines. The astrocyte cells are more like mobile phones. They just broadcast in all directions. And they are actually overseeing the neurons, the blood flow, what I call the wellhead. All of these three places where the cranial sea is produced, rather than calling it the blood-brain barrier, because that you perceive it's stopping stuff coming out. We're coming from the cranial sea side. We want lots of cranial sea, and there is lots of cranial sea. So for me, this is called the wellhead. All of this fluid is just flowing out, but we want pure fluid. So we're going to work with the energies of that. We're going to work with the breathing motion of that, and we're going to feel it. This will give you a way of feeling that anatomy. It felt a bit hard work teaching the anatomy, and you can watch this video. There will be a recording of this video, so you can watch that and I will add more pictures, and there are picture stories on my website. There's all of the previous cranial webinars. There's articles with pictures showing how this works in more detail. All of that is there if you want to look at. This is a huge resource for cranial practitioners or anyone. That's all there. It just says free videos and webinars. It's on the last page there. So we're going to do a meditation. We're going to feel the different energy of the blood flow, and then as the whole energy of the wellhead, the energy of the cranial seed, the energy of the astrocyte cells. And we'll also be connecting those to the higher self, be connecting those to the earth. And if there's time, I will also connect it. There is the breathing motion in holographic breathing. There is also different energies in holographic breathing, and the blood more relates to the fire circuit, which includes the heart, the ovaries, the testes, the uterus, prostate. And we'll be using those lower energies or different energies when we're working with the heart, just to open up the energies more strongly coming through the body. There's areas in the chin, the front of the cranium. These are the fire circuit. When we're moving into it to start off with, there's more the darker energies, the energies of the muscles and bones, and this is more the back of the jaw, the back of the head. I'm only speaking about it in a very general way. We go into this in much more depth in the kind of paid for webinars we do every Sunday, but we'll be looking at that. If I get time and it feels right, I'll include the fire energies, I'll include the deep earth energies, and the astrocyte cells. They're part of the yellow circuit and the connective tissue through the whole body, because they are connective tissue, but they have this strong connection to the higher self. And the base potency for that in the pelvis is the erectile tissue in the penis and the erectile tissue of the clitoris, and we'll be using that as a base energy to rise up through that circuit and to heal the astrocyte cells. I'll just show you a clitoris so you can get an idea of the clitoris. I wonder if I've got a pelvis around to demonstrate this. Oh, there's one. Fancy that. There's the pelvis. So here's a clitoris. The vagina would be that way up. The vagina is in here. And it's a bit large. It's a bit large for this pelvis. But here you have the pubic arch here, and the clitoris is in here. Now, originally in the anatomy books, they used to do this about 1/10 of the size, until a certain lady really started complaining and saying it's not like that at all. And it took them until 2007 to actually reinstate the proper size of the clitoris. There's something to do, I think, with holding down female sexuality there, but at the same time they held down male sexuality, because the stem of the penis, what we'll be working with for the men, not this bit here, but it does the same thing. It travels inwardly, it comes down centrally and then travels in right down to the sit bones, and this whole area where it mirrors the clitoris, that is kind of the base energy for the erectile tissue of the penis, and then it also comes out through the stem, but it mirrors the clitoris for the women. And will be for that particular circuit, the yellow circuit, this is the base energy in the pelvis, and that rises up, and right, there's all sorts of things in that circuit, but right at the top it's the astrocyte cells. For the fire circuit, it's the ovaries and testes, the uterus and prostate, and again, where it will relate to the heart. There's lots of other organs in that, but that rises up. It's the front of the face, the front of the jaw, it's inside the nasal passageways, it's the front of the cranium, but that is the capillaries through the brain, so we'll be opening that. Then fire circuit, and then the yellow energies as well, and the deep dark energies there, the bones. The actual cranial sea, that's the lung circuit, and we maybe the sexual center for the lung circuit in the pelvis is actually the rectum, which also has a sexual energy that rises. We may work with that as well, just see what there is time for and what naturally fits into that as we are doing it. We have got both. If you want to go into that in more detail, next week we're working with the deep dark energies or deep earth energy. It relates to the pancreas, the liver, gallbladder, duodenum. It's a real deep connection to the earth. And then the week after, we're starting the webinar for the fire circuits, the heart, the hara, the small intestines, ovaries, testes, uterus, prostate, but also energy points through the whole body to do with the thyroid, the thalamus area of the brain. But yeah, we do that in much greater depth in those. Okay, so I'm going to show you one last thing. Now there are all the other webinars there, so you can see the different things, or webinar recordings, so you can see all the different things in detail. But I'll just show you. I made this thing of a so myelinating glial cells. This is the axon. You've got like a neuron here, and the electricity goes through this, and then these unfold, and inside, so you've got an outer layer, which is a membrane, and then you've got the inner layer in between the membrane, which is water, and they roll up till they make this big sheet, and then they get finer and finer in the middle. But there are rolls of membrane with cranial sea in the middle. Let's roll that one up a bit more. And that last fold where it joins here, this is all tight connections, and all of these come in and join the axon, and they're all tight connections. So it's totally sealed all around with tight connections. And the only real reason for that is to only let pure water in through the joints, and then again it's intelligent, like the endothelial cells and the ependymal cells, and it just allows what it's right for that water inside of it to come in and out through the outside layer. And the nucleus is kind of in the center of the outside roll as it keeps wrapping around more and more. So that is the third part of the wellhead. Right, we're now going to go into the meditation. This will probably be a long meditation. We'll start with the breathing, we'll move into the heart and the fire circuit and the blood flow to the brain, and we'll stay with that and just be with the quality of the fire and the quality of the blood. And then we'll start moving out through the wellhead. Notice what that feels like. I'm just wondering which way round to do this. I think to start off with, from the wellhead, we won't go directly into the cranial sea. We'll move into the astrocyte cells, which are the connective tissue for the brain, and they're through everything. They connect everything together. The brain would be just slushing around water if it wasn't for all those little connections that feet from the astrocyte cells stuck to everything around. If they unstuck their feet, everything would just be seized. So they make the connective tissue, and that's more the yellow energies, and it's to do with the nose, it's to do with the ethmoid between the nose and the power for it is the clitoris and the connective tissue of the penis. That's the sexual energy. The power for the blood is the ovaries and testes and uterus, and that's rising through the blood. And the earth for the fire circuit is also the testes and ovaries and the same with the yellow energies. The earth for it is the clitoris. And the astrocyte cells are also part of this yellow circuit. When we move from the astrocyte, because the astrocyte cells will absorb a lot of the nutrition, a lot of the oxygen, they store the glucose, the water will flow through them. As they let that out, I think we'll move from the blood circuit to the wellhead, to the astrocyte cells, and then from there move out into the cranial sea. And then you move into the lung circuit, which is much lighter, and the whole cranial sea. Lung circuit is this sideways motion of the breath. The potency and the kundalini that feeds that is the rectum, that has the sexual energies, and earth for that, and kundalini through that. The myelinating glial cells, which travel off down through the nerves, they're actually blue circuit, but there's just not time to go into that. Rather than being with the membranes of that, we will just stay as the cranial sea flowing down that, which is more this breath. Then it comes out of the myelinating glial cells into, and then out of the nerves into the interstitial fluid, and then we'll move into the lymph, which are very similar. They're in the same way as myelinating glial cells. They join together and flow along the nerves, and the fluid flows from one to the other down through the nerves. The capillaries for the lymph is the same. They have sections. You know, it goes long, and then there's a valve, and then there's another valve. It's very similar, and that is also a C. It's 4 times as much lymph as there is either venous blood or arterial blood. It's massive. That is tiny little capillaries, but it makes this huge sea, and that is a sister sea to the cranial sea. Very different quality. That's about 70% water. The cranial sea is 99% water. So the lymph is much more connected to the moon. That's what I always feel when I drop into the lymph. I feel the tides and this connection to the moon. So then we come back to the heart and the fire, and then we'll do that circuit a bit again and end up in the sea and just hang out there and do a bit of channeling, allow the higher energies to flow through all of that. All right. We're going to start. Wave if my sound is loud enough. Yeah, okay. Let's go. Let's do it. All right. Closing your eyes. And dropping into the holographic breathing. Notice how easy it comes and how natural it feels. So just gently breathing with the holographic breathing. And start becoming aware of your heart. Notice how it has this quite strong, hot fire energy. And to help ground, it may feel a little bit uncomfortable to a few people, but to help ground that fire, come in contact with your ovaries, your testes, your uterus, prostate, the pubic arch will help ground the fire circuit. So becoming aware of your heart pumping the blood around the lungs, and as it comes back from the lungs, it's red, full of oxygen, arterial blood, and there's a warmth to it. Notice the connection to your ovaries and testes. They will help ground that. The pubic arch. In the face, the chin, it will relate to the chin, and also in the nasal passageways. This rises up out of the heart. There's an arch, and then it divides and it comes up 2 arteries either side. You get this fire in the heart and the blood flow coming up towards the brain. You get these 2 arteries coming up. And they come up through the neck, and they rise up through the brain stem. And they start getting smaller and smaller. So you can feel the connection to the heart. You can feel the fire in the heart, and you can feel the connection in the pelvis to the ovaries and testes, uterus and prostate, the pubic arch, and also just above the hip joints, the pelvis just slightly above the hip joints. To relate to that fire energy, and you feel that fire energy getting into smaller and smaller capillaries through the whole brain, through the whole spinal cord. And it's especially into the hypothalamus area is the fire circuit, the pituitary gland. Feel the connection from the pituitary gland to your ovaries and testes. So you've got the heart connection to the brain and all those fine capillaries through the whole brain. Nerves are also fed by capillaries. We're not going to quite get to that yet, just feeling the whole central nervous system. This is all this 400 miles make a sea of capillaries and arterial blood, and then you've got the endothelial cells around with tight junctions, and they're letting just water, just pure water is coming out. And then through the cells it's letting out salt, oxygen and glucose. And first of all it's held, it just comes out to this tiny little space where the feet of the astrocyte cells are connecting, and just flow into the feet of the astrocyte cells and into the astrocytes. Notice how the fire goes out, and as you move into the astrocyte cells, it's to do with your nose, it's to do with the ethmoid between the eyes. Notice a very different energy, and the clitoris for the men, clitoris for the women, and the erectile tissue of the penis for the men. This grounds it and gives it the potency. You have the astrocyte cells which connect through the whole body, and they're receiving all of this nutrition, all of this oxygen, and they become stores for glucose for the body. And just breathing with the astrocyte cells breathe, and with their legs they create the breathing motion of the brain. So you're surrounded in cranial sea. You're the astrocyte cells just breathing, the arms and legs moving, and this creates a breath through the whole central nervous system. There's the breath of the muscles and bones on the outside, and this connects to the internal breathing motion of the brain, of these astrocyte cells floating in cranial sea. Notice the astrocyte cells have an almost instantaneous connection to the higher self. Notice you start channeling. Notice this soft yellow light may start coming through the top of your head. The astrocyte cells are deeply intelligent, but it's not really of the intellect. Notice the connection to the higher self from these astrocyte cells. Gently breathing with the astrocyte cells, floating in cranial sea. And slowly letting the water will just flow out, letting the oxygen out, letting the glucose out, feeding the neurons, the axons, and out into the cranial sea. And moving from the astrocyte cells into the cranial sea. Notice the change of energy. Notice you want to breathe. The cranial sea connects to the lung circuit, and you get this deep breath as you move into the cranial sea. So hanging out in the cranial sea, notice a very different quality. It is water. And it's around the brain, it's through the whole brain, it's around the spinal cord, it's through the spinal cord, and it travels off down through the nerves. Notice what happens when you allow it to travel through the nerves. There's a release of energies. It travels out through the spine, out through the arms and legs, through the vagus nerve, through the nerves to the face and cranium. You get this light from above coming down into the cranial sea. It has a different quality to the astrocyte cells. It is water, it is a sea, but it is intelligent, and intelligence travels through it. And it travels out through the nerves. The nerves get finer and finer, and it creates a sea through the whole body. The cranial capillaries, or created by the myelinating glial cells, take it off around every nerve, out through the whole body. Every nerve fiber is got these spirals of water, travels out through the whole body. Just hanging out in that sea, in that water, allowing that channel from above to come through you and spread out and heal. Where you may feel this relating to in the pelvis, where the lungs relate to, all the lung circuits, it's the lungs in the chest, it's the colon, it's the sides of the colon in the abdomen. Then where it relates to in the pelvis is the rectum. You may feel your rectum releasing, and this travels up through the cranial sea in the spine and lights up through the thalamus, the brain stem, and the cranial sea in the brain. Notice you get a nice pulsing from the rectum and the sphincter muscle. It releases through the cranial sea, it releases your spine. Breathing with the cranial sea as it's moving through your whole body. It is in the central nervous system, but it's held around every nerve fibre, reaching out to every tiny bit of your body. Like water optic tubes, light travels through these water capillaries through your whole body. It's fed from above, it's fed from below, and it's fed by the kundalini from the rectum. Just letting that charge, letting that energy heal through you. Definitely good to let the pulsing from the rectum release through the cranial sea, through the brain, through the spine. And breathe. It's the breath, it relates to the breath. The cranial sea relates to the breath. You get the sideways motion of the breath in the chest and the abdomen. Then it comes central in the rectum, and the kundalini rises up through the center line, through the cranial sea, lights up the thalamus, the brain stem, the ventricles, the cranial sea, through that whole central brain cortex. Gently breathing with the holographic breathing. Being with the cranial sea. And that starts seeping out through the nerves. That water, that sea, is flowing down through the nerves, and it starts coming out of the nerves into the interstitial fluid. And it's picked up by the lymph. This is still a fluid, and it's still quite a clear fluid, but it has a different quality. And it's massive, 4 times the size of the arterial blood or the venous blood. Tiny capillaries start gathering together, and it makes this sea through the body as you're with it. Notice you've moved from the cranial sea to the sea of the lymph, just through your whole body, and very slowly moving towards the heart. For me, this connects to the moon. I don't know why, may not connect to the moon for you, but for me, the lymph connects to the moon. It's good to feel it in your arms and legs, slowly rising, through your head dropping, through your whole body, rising and slowly working towards the heart. Notice, you know what the lymph feels like, you know what the cranial sea feels like, you know what the astrocyte cells inside, you know, and the holographic breathing just takes you there. And being with the quality of the lymph, and I can feel the tides and the connection to the moon in the lymph. It's also very much to do with the lung circuit. It breathes. There's this breathing through the whole lymph. And it's slowly moving to the heart, taking the toxins, taking the carbon dioxide. We think of it as waste, but it's not waste, it's just carbon dioxide. Why would carbon dioxide be waste? For us, it's waste. For plants, it's food. And that water channels an energy. For me, it's the energy of the moon and planets, different planets, but whatever you feel that, for me, it's very female. Slowly working its way towards the heart. The lymph ducts getting larger and larger as this sea of lymph migrates to the heart by capillary actions, working by capillary action, same as a tree. Gently breathing with the holographic breathing, feeling this quality of the lymph. You can feel it around your face, around your cranium, but inside the cranium it's the cranial sea. In the cranium and around it's the lymph. And it's getting closer to the heart. And as it starts entering into the heart, as it starts flowing into the heart, notice the quality change. You move into the heart. As you move into the heart, feel the instant connection to the ovaries and testes and pubic arch. And the heart pumps the blood around the lungs. And when it comes back from the lungs, it's bright red, full of oxygen. Feel that fire in the heart. The arterial blood is of Mars, the venous blood is of Venus, very different quality. The lymph is of the moon, for me. And feel that blood rising, that fire rising. Feel the connection, the potency rising from the ovaries and testes, pubic arch. And that blood, that fire is moving around the whole body as a sea of fire. Notice you can drop into a sea of fire that is opening through your whole body from the heart, the healing energies of the heart and the fire circuit. But you also have to ground it into the hara, into the ovaries and testes, into the pubic arch, into the prostate and uterus. And it's rising up through the neck, through the face, this fire, lake of fire, sea of fire, molten rock fire, however you experience it, through your body, and it rises into the brain, all the little capillaries through the brain, through the spinal cord, this fire in the water. The cranial sea is water, the capillaries are fire. It travels through 400 miles of capillaries through the brain and the spinal cord. And get into those tiny little capillaries. And as it gets just wide enough for one blood cell to get through, just has one endothelial cell wrapped around the capillary, and water starts leaking out between the capillaries. Only water can get through the tight junctions. It's also in the coryplexus. It's coming out through the ependymal cells, around the thalamus, inside the brainstem. It's mainly through all of these miles of endothelial cells, but it starts coming out. And then the endothelial cells choose oxygen, glucose and salt. They allow this through. And first it starts moving into the feet of the astrocyte cells. Notice the energy is changed. May connect to your clitoris, your erectile tissue of the penis, the nose, your tongue, the ethmoid, between the eyes, the top of the nose. And you move into the astrocyte cells, very intelligent cells. These are the cells that Einstein had. He didn't have more neurons than anybody else, but he had hugely more astrocyte cells. And they're not of the intellect, they're a different type of intelligence. They're like lateral, knowing, and they govern all of the other cells. Letting yourself be in the astrocyte cells and allowing all of that nutrition. All of your feet are completely encasing the capillaries, and that nutrition is flowing out into your body, around your nucleus. And it is for you, but it's also being passed on to the neurons directly. You've got your feet on the axons coming out of the neurons onto the bodies of the neurons, and you're passing that on. But being in the axon, feeling all of this nutrition, this oxygen, this glucose, different little neuroconnectors and things arriving, and you're disseminating that out through your body, into the cranial sea, out through your feet, into the neurons, into the synapses. Let that travel. Notice that opening up through your head as you're the astrocyte cell. Notice you're like a little person, letting that release through the higher energies. Notice there's a strong spiritual connection to the astrocyte cells. Really a deep healing to the astrocyte cells. Allow yourself to receive that deep healing, that health, that knowing from the beyond. Gently breathing. Allowing. And you may feel it connecting to the clitoris, the erectile tissue of the penis, as an energy that rises up through the body, through the astrocyte cells. Also relates to the coccyx at the base of the spine. Feel the kundalini rising from the coccyx through the astrocyte cells. Notice the coccyx relating up through the spine to all the astrocyte cells and connecting to the higher self. Gently breathing. They have a breath. They breathe with the whole body. And then morphing slowly out from the astrocyte cells into the sea. Notice the energy change. Become the sea. The brain is mainly sea, it's 90% water, and the sea in it is 99% water. And this flows off through the body, through the arms and legs, connects to the higher self, connects to the lungs, to the colon. This opening sideways breath. And then on the center line it connects from the rectum up through the central brain complex. Breathing with your cranial sea, allowing it to flow through every nerve, fiber, through your whole body, letting it heal everything. May feel like the top of your head has completely gone and you've got this wonderful connection up into the higher self, and the higher self is this wonderful connection down through you. Letting your neck relax, letting your throat relax. Allow yourself to receive the wisdom and the knowledge of the beyond into your cranial sea. Opening through the crown chakra, opening through the third eye, and all of that energy, all of that healing, logging into the memory of the cranial sea, the body of the cranial sea, and traveling through your whole body, through every nerve capillary, out to everywhere. Let it heal every cell through and through, gently breathing with the holographic breathing. Let your brain pulse, let your spine release. You may feel it from the earth, you may feel it being fed from the rectum and this energy releasing in the rectum as a supportive energy that energizes the cranial sea from below. And energies come down through it, but also the energy from the rectum rises through it, and all of the lower energies and the earth. There's a communication down through the cranial sea, and there's a communication up through the body to the higher self. There's meditation, listening to the higher self, and there's prayer, allowing the body to talk to the higher self, and those energies to rise through you, your energies to rise through the cranial sea, through your head, out through the top of your head, into the higher self. Every cell of your body talking to the higher self and beyond. The higher self and the beyond talking through you to every cell, enabling every cell, activating every cell, and connecting to the earth. Allow yourself to be activated to receive the energies of the higher self and the transmission of the higher self. Gently breathing with the holographic breathing. Allow yourself to receive. So we're going to come back in about a minute. Gently being with that, letting that soften. Becoming aware of your sit bones. Let's have a deep dark energy to them. Becoming aware of the back of your head, the back of your jaw, the shoulder blades, the heels of your feet, the heels of your hands, back of the jaw. These will move you into a deep, rich, dark energy. Allow that energy to earth you. Really let your sit bones connect to the earth. Gently breathing with the holographic breathing. Let that ground you. You may also feel that releasing up through your spine, through your head. Let the deep earth energies ground you and connect to the higher self. Really feel the magnetism in your sit bones as they pull down into the earth, and this rich, deep, dark energy releasing through you from the back of the head, the back of the jaw. And breathe. But just be with that for a little time, just to let everything ground into the bones, into the earth, deep earth energies, to the heels. Gently breathing. Notice the deep earth energies will connect you to the bones. You're no longer in the cranial fluid, more in the bones and the cranium. Grounded. Still connect to the higher self, but a different connection, a connection through the deep earth energies. Gently breathing. Okay, and sending a thank you to the earth. A thank you to the higher self. A thank you to the beneficial energies. Allowing the energies to go back to the earth for love and healing. Allowing the energies to go to the higher self and beneficial energies for love and healing. Allowing yourself to be loved and healed. Allowing the energies to go out to all sentient beings for love and healing. And you are a sentient being, allowing yourself to be loved and healed. And when you feel ready, gently allowing yourselves to come back. So if you enjoyed that, wave your hands. Okay, everyone waved, I think. Marvelous, great. So next week we've got the deep dark earth energies, or the deep earth energies. Very strong circuit, really grounded energy, but a strong connection to the higher self. It's the last in the series, but everybody is welcome, and you can buy the copies of the last three. It's £29 or 14 if you just come to that, but if you want the copies of the whole series, it's £29. Well worth learning that. Then the week after we will be starting with the fire circuit, which we worked with a bit today, but we'll be going into that in far more depth and far more potently. We just do the fire circuit for the whole webinar, and we do it for 4 different Sundays, and we work with one set of organs. We work with the ovaries, testes, uterus and prostate mainly to allow that energy to work out through the whole body and heal. Then we'll work with the small intestines 1 week, and the hara for a week, and the heart 1 week. But they always, all of them, but we focus mainly on one each time. And it opens through energy points, which I didn't really show you, through the face and cranium, through the spine, through the arms and legs. So we'll be immersing in that the week after that, and then we will be starting a new one for the brain, the cerebellum and the arms and legs, probably in February.